I had become kind of the go-to guy for everybody who wanted to pitch a story. So I would get emails, I would get phone calls, just random people would be pitching me stories all the time because of the success of my previous book, Bringing Down the House. And so out of the blue at 2 a.m, I got an email from a Harvard senior, and it basically said, my best friend founded Facebook and no one's ever heard of him. And it wasn't Mark Zuckerberg, it was somebody else. So I went out for a drink at a bar in Boston with the guy, and he started the conversation by saying, Mark Zuckerberg fucked me. I don't know if you can use that language here. But anyways, as a journalist, I said, tell me more. And he proceeded to tell me this crazy story about how they'd met at an underground fraternity, how, you've seen the movie The Social Network, so you kind of know what the story was. So I thought this was really cool. Facebook at the time was it wasn't the monster that it is today. This was 2006, maybe 2007. So Facebook was still, like MySpace, like Friendster, but I really saw it as being something that was going to be life-changing for everybody. So I kind of dove in, and the first people I reached out to were the Winklevoss twins. I found them via Facebook, actually, ironically, hunted them down and started hanging out with them, and they proceeded to give me all this great information. They were kind of two of my main sources. I kept on finding more and more sources, and I was developing a book proposal. I sent the book proposal to my agent, and it leaked onto the internet. So Gawker.com, if you remember that website, printed my entire book proposal. And that day, everything went crazy. Eduardo Saverin was the one who was talking to me. Basically, Facebook settled with him to try and get him to stop talking to me. So they gave him $5 billion. But on the top of the settlement agreement, it says you may never speak to Ben Mezrich again. So they were trying to cut off contact. So he cut off contact with me, sent me a legal restraining order. He broke up with his girlfriend because it was my wife's best friend. And he left town. I had been spent 6 months with Eduardo by that point in time. I had tons of information. I'd found the Winklevi. Got to Sean Parker out in San Francisco. I was working on a lot of different angles. So by the time I wrote the proposal, I had a lot of research done. So Facebook was really unable to stop what was happening. I will say, I don't think Eduardo ever intended for me to write a book. I think he was using me to get Facebook to settle this lawsuit. So I think it ended up working out great for him. But that same day, I also got the call from Aaron Sorkin, who saw my book proposal online and was like, I want to make this as my next movie. And that same day, we got the call from David Fincher, who said, I want to direct this. And the only problem was I hadn't actually written the book yet. I had a book proposal at that point. So locked myself in a hotel, and I wrote the book over the next 11 weeks. So it was a crazy, crazy period of just intense writing. And it was one of the fastest book to films, I think, that's ever been made, because the movie was in production months later. And we had the movie out along with the hardcover. It was that crazy how everything kind of came together. And then The Social Network was just a spectacular movie. So yeah, it was a really interesting year for sure. It was the Westin Hotel in Boston. I live in the Back Bay in Boston, or at least I was at that moment. And so basically, I've trained myself to write on a laptop. I've written on all sorts of everything at this point, but I wrote Bringing Down the House in Vegas in a different hotel room every night. So hotels are a great place for me to write. Aaron came in pretty early into the situation. I was handing him chapters basically by the end, but he really got the entire book before he wrote the screenplay. But the screenplay was done maybe a few weeks after the book. So what I did do is he came to Boston, and I was the only person who'd ever met Eduardo. I gave him all of my research, and then I started bringing him around to meet with all of the different characters. And I got him into the Phoenix Club at Harvard to meet all, the college kids. And so it was a really interesting working experience, bringing Aaron around and being sort of the research guy on that. So, the writing for me is very frenzied. I usually, have loud music playing. I have stacks of research. So usually it's legal documents, it's, whatever I've written up on all the characters, it's photos of all the places.
I have you hold on
Sure.
Just 1 sec. I apologize. We have would you just repeat that from the stacks of research? I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah. So when I'm writing, I usually have stacks of research next to me. I've got like legal depositions. I've got write-ups on all the characters. I've got maybe photographs or pictures of the places where it takes place. I've got lots and lots of information before I start writing. So usually I get the book proposal. I have an outline that's very strict and severe, and I know everything in every chapter. And then I just have hundreds and hundreds of pages of research. So that, is all over the place. But I'm pretty much like, in a bare room when I'm writing. It's not, there's when I started writing for television, I got more into the note cards and the wall with the stuff on it that looks like a serial killer. But when I was writing, that book, it was more just me and my computer and then Aaron Sorkin in the next room.